The story begins long before time was carved into runes, before the frost gave birth to fire, before even Odin plucked out his eye to see the secrets of the well. In the hush between moments, in the silk-shadowed folds of desire and smoke, she moved, Freyja, daughter of the Vanir, lady of passion, battle, and the deepest hunger. The 9 realms trembled at her name, not out of fear, but reverence. From the meadows of Vanaheim to the golden towers of Asgard, across Midgard's storm-lit seas, and into the abyssal shadows of Jotunheim, her presence echoed like the slow burn of a remembered kiss. She was love's keeper and war's whisperer, draped not only in beauty, but in that strange molten ache that makes mortals and gods forget themselves. But every flame has a price, and every goddess a wound she does not show. She wore it close to her throat, breezing amen, the necklace forged by the hands of dwarves in the hollows of the earth. It was more than treasure. It was a charm, a binding, a promise. Its gold was not merely precious. It shimmered with old magic, laced with the sweat of gods and the longing of men. When she wore it, she walked like prophecy. Even the sky bent to her will. But now the necklace is gone, stolen. And without it, the goddess is not diminished, but revealed. The tale unfolds in a twilight soaked in gold and mist. The world lies caught in the hush before something breaks. Banners hang limp in empty wind. The drums of distant war rumble like forgotten heartbeats under the earth. And she, Freyja, stands on the balcony of Sesrumnir, her hall of many seats, high in Asgard's gleaming spires. The falcon cloak at her shoulders hangs loose, its feathers dark and slick with the oil of coming storm. She does not weep. No, Freyja does not cry, but she burns. Behind her eyes rises the tidal pull of something deeper than anger. Desire, yes, but not merely for the necklace. She desires to feel whole again, to hold power the way she once held love, in her fist, in her throat, in the press of a name murmured against her skin. She desires to be wanted, not worshipped, and most of all, she desires to lose herself in something, someone, that will not fall apart when touched. Brisingamen had been her armor and her mirror. It never dulled, even after the 1000th battle, the 100th bed. Dwarven forged under the mountains, it wrapped her in mystery. Its clasp knew the shape of her throat as no lover ever had. In every hall she entered, it was the first thing they noticed and the last thing she would allow them to touch. To lose it was to lose her silence, and silence had been her greatest weapon. They whisper that she gave herself to 4 dwarves for it, that her beauty was not enough, so she paid with her body, that she shed her name and moaned in shadows beneath stone. Others say she never paid, she conquered, that the dwarves fell on their knees, mouths open, hands shaking when she entered their forge, and that Brisingamen leapt from fire to her neck of its own accord. Both stories might be true, both might be lies. Freyja keeps her truth tucked between her thighs and her tongue. She offers no clarifications, no apologies. Gods do not explain themselves, especially not goddesses who know their worth. But this time she is shaken, for she awoke alone in her bed, the necklace gone. No doors broken, no windows open, just absence, just betrayal, and a cold breeze sliding along her bare collarbone like the memory of a mouth. The sky above Asgard is low, heavy with unshed rain. Freyja does not flinch as thunder growls, Thor's restlessness again perhaps, but instead lifts her chin to the wind, eyes closed. She senses it, the hum of old magic, not of Aesir or Vanir, but of something deeper, primal, Jotun, giant-born. She suspects who took it, and worse, she suspects why.
The giants, Jotnar, have long eyed her. Not just her beauty, but her power. She moves through the 9 realms as no other, with her falcon cloak as her chariot. She can fly where others crawl, speak where others silence, seduce where others conquer. The veil of her presence is thinner than silk and twice as cutting. She does not fear them, but they fascinate her because they do not worship. They want, and want in its rawest form is what she aches for. Even the gods cannot help but desire her. Odin watches with one eye and pretends he does not feel. Loki smiles too easily in her presence, hiding a hunger he cannot name. Thor treats her with loud, awkward respect, like a soldier too proud to speak of dreams. They all want something from her, and Freyja gives it when it serves her. But the giants, they do not ask, they take. And though it enrages her, a part of her, the secret, shivering part she hides even from herself, longs to be taken, not as a goddess, but as a woman. She opens a chest beside her bed, velvet-lined and shadow-scented. Inside lies the falcon cloak, feathers dark as night, iridescent like oil on water. It is old, older than Asgard perhaps. When she wears it, she becomes wind, becomes flight, becomes untouchable. And now she must become the hunter. But this time, not for sport, not for seduction, for retribution, and something darker.
As she clasps the cloak around her shoulders, a shiver climbs her spine, not from cold, but anticipation. The air smells like iron and wet moss. Somewhere the earth is opening, welcoming footsteps that do not yet fall. She has not yet flown, but she will. She will descend into the jagged womb of the world and face what waits in the caves, what laughs in the frost.
She will meet the ones who think they can play with her power like fire in their palms, and she will teach them not to steal from a goddess of desire, because desire, when thwarted, becomes something far more dangerous. It becomes need. Before she leaves, she steps in front of a mirror. Not the enchanted ones of Alfheim or Svartalfheim, but a simple bronze disc. It reflects her not as a goddess, but as a woman. Her skin is pale gold, smooth as untouched parchment. Her eyes are storms, barely held in place. Her lips curve, not in a smile, but in a promise. She lifts her chin, traces the hollow where Brisingaman once lay, and whispers a single word: mine. Then she leaps. She falls into cloud and wind and rising dark. The 9 realms open beneath her like a lover's hands, and the story begins, not of the necklace or the theft, but of what she is willing to give and what she is willing to become. She moves through the clouds like smoke, silent, swift, endless. The falcon cloak clings to her skin, feathers whispering with each shift of muscle, each flick of her limbs. Below her, the realms turn slowly, as if uncertain where her gaze might fall next. She watches them all, but she sees none. Her eyes are fixed inward. Freyja, daughter of Njord, sister of Freyr, ruler of Folkvanger, keeper of half the dead. She is many things to many beings, but most do not know the shape of her solitude. They see her beauty, the curve of her lips, the shimmer of her eyes, the sway of her hips that seem to pull gravity itself into her orbit. They do not see the stillness in her spine when touched without permission, the breath she holds when a man calls her soft, the memory of 1,000 beds she has left colder than before she entered. She is not soft. She is not warm. She is fire held in golden vessels. She is the tremble between sword and kiss. She is the scream that never leaves the throat, the moan that never ends. And yet, there are moments, only at night, when the stars drift low and even gods cannot lie, when she aches not for power, but for peace, not to be desired, but to be seen, not to conquer, but to collapse, if only for a heartbeat, into arms that do not tremble with fear or fevered lust. But there are no arms like that in the 9 realms, only hers. She touches her throat again, bare where Brisingaman once lay. She does not weep, but her pulse tightens. Her body remembers the necklace like a missing limb. She dreams of it, curled around her skin like a lover's promise, cool and heavy, reminding her that she is more than just longing incarnate, that she is anchored, that she is whole. And now she is not. Somewhere Deep in the belly of the world, someone dares to touch what is hers, dares to breathe against her absence, dares to hold the relic that once danced between her breasts like a captive star. The giants. They are not gods, they are not men, they are not bound by the neat, glittering rules of Asgard. They were old before the gods were born, carved from stone and thunder, their hearts beating not with blood but with molten ice and ancient hunger. They remember the screams of creation, they carry storms in their veins.
The one who took the necklace is no thief. He is a message. His name is not yet known to her, but she has felt his shadow at the edge of dreams, a presence broad and silent, a shape larger than memory, a hunger deeper than flesh. He is one of the old ones, eldest among the frostborn, untouched by the treaties between Aesir and Jotnar. His kind do not bend knees, they do not barter with beauty, they take. And Freyja, for all her fury, is curious, for there is something in her that calls to that kind of danger, the way a torch longs for wind, the way blood calls to snow. She was raised among the Vanir, taught to charm the land into bloom, taught to seduce rain from barren skies, but something inside her has always belonged to winter. The giants know this, and they wait. One among them now holds the breezing almond, not for gold, not for power, but for the thrill of holding something divine and untouchable, a goddess, a storm wrapped in skin. He does not want her necklace. He wants her to come for it. And she will, but not without watching first, not without knowing the shape of her enemy, not without feeling the weight of his presence in the wind, the echo of his voice in mountain caverns, the heat of his breath where the air should be coldest. As she flies, her thoughts turn, unexpectedly, perhaps unwisely, to Loki, the trickster, the shapeshifter, the mirror that cracks. He is not hers, nor is he ever truly anyone's. He lives between things, truth and lie, fire and frost, laugh and snarl. And yet he sees her in ways no other god dares. They do not trust each other. They never have. But there is an intimacy in that, one built not on love but recognition. Both of them are masks. Both are more than what they show. Both carry secrets inside their laughter. It was Loki who once told her the story of the necklace's forging, how the dwarves had not forged it alone, but sung to it, bled into it, whispered their own memories into its gold, that it was not merely an ornament, but a vessel, that it held not just beauty, but want, that anyone who touched it too long would begin to hunger for things they could not name. She wonders if the giant knows that. She wonders if the necklace is already changing him. And she wonders, just for a breathless moment, what it would be like to face such a creature, not in war, but in closeness. To let herself be pulled into that deep,
cold gravity, not as a goddess, not as prey, but as herself. To be stripped not of her power, but of her armor. She shivers, and it has nothing to do with altitude. A flash of movement catches her eye, low in the forest of Midgard, at the rim where mortal world touches wildness. A figure, broad, still, watching the sky. Not mortal. She knows the scent of godblood when it stirs. She dives. The trees bend as she lands. Her cloak folds back, revealing skin kissed by sun and silence. She walks through the clearing like it belongs to her, because it does. Everything does. And there he stands, Odin, High One, All-Father, God of ravens and riddles. His single eye gleams like frost over secrets. He says nothing at first, just looks at her, as if measuring how far she has already gone from the path he once carved for her. "You've lost something," he finally says. Her smile is slow, tired, dangerous. "I've misplaced nothing. Something was taken." He nods. "And you mean to retrieve it?" "Of course."
Even if it means crossing lines that should remain untouched. She steps closer. Their breath mingles, hers like warm honey, his like winter smoke. I cross what I must, you know that. He studies her. This one is different. She waits. He does not explain, because he knows she will go anyway, because he knows she must. She turns to leave, but he speaks once more, voice low, almost kind. "Desire is a weapon, Freyja, and you are the sharpest blade I've ever known. Just be certain you are not the one bleeding at the end." She does not answer. She does not need to. Because deep down, part of her hopes he's right, that this time she might finally feel the cut, and know she's still alive. She vanishes into sky, and the gods say nothing, because they've seen what happens when Freyja wants something, and they've seen what she becomes to get it. The wind bites harder as she leaves Asgard behind, the last gleam of gold swallowed by thick cloud. Her vision narrows. No longer is she the goddess watching over the realms from her distant tower. She is now the seeker, the hunter, the one who has been touched, provoked, wounded. The theft is not just of Brisingamen. It is of her certainty, her poise, her control. She has known power in many forms. She has ridden into battle with her boar and her banner, blood on her thighs and a song on her lips. She has danced between sheets woven from starlight, seduced kings and beggars alike. But this is the slow fever of a threat that dares to know her intimately without permission. And yet, part of her responds, not with fear, but with curiosity and hunger. Somewhere beneath the crust of the world he waits, the unnamed giant, the taker, the one who reached through walls of spell and silence and stole her necklace as if plucking a thread from a tapestry. And perhaps, just perhaps, he is calling her. She flies low, following whispers from ravens, echoes from stone. The falcon cloak is tight against her skin, and with every mile it grows heavier, as if it too resists where she is going, as if it knows the realms she enters now will not obey the laws of gods. She crosses into Jotunheim. The realm of giants is not barren as some stories claim. It is ancient, wide, terrifying in its rawness. Mountains rise like broken teeth, rivers churn black and cold, and the wind sings songs in no known tongue. Here, the sky is a darker blue, bruised with ancient storms. Even the stars keep their distance. She lands beside a frozen lake and sheds her cloak. The transformation must begin. To walk into the world of giants as a goddess would be to start war, and war is not what she wants. Not yet. She dips her fingers into the ice-fed waters, whispers. The spell is slow, but deliberate. Her form shifts. Her golden hair darkens. Her skin turns to pale marble. Her eyes lose their divine shimmer, becoming gray and wide, like a mortal woman lost in dreams.
She is no longer Freyja. She is someone else now. No name, no title, just breath, flesh, bait. The disguise is not just for him, it is for her. Because to face him truly, she must not bring her goddesshood, she must bring only her need. She walks into the forest. The trees here do not move with the wind. They lean forward, listening, watching. Somewhere, far off, a creature cries out, a sound not of pain or rage, but of wanting. And then he appears, not with a roar or a blaze of force, but in silence. One moment she is alone, the next he stands before her, tall, broad, unmoving. The air thickens around him. His eyes are dark, not black, but a deep, ancient blue, like the heart of a glacier. His body is stone and storm and something else, something aching. He is beautiful in the way wild things are, untamed, unapologetic. He says nothing, and yet she feels it. The necklace. Brisingamen glows faintly around his wrist, wrapped like a trophy or a gift. Its gold is dull here, less radiant, more raw, like her. She does not reach for it. She meets his gaze. "You took something," she says. His voice, when it comes, is low, rumbled, almost gentle. "I was invited." She tilts her head. "I never invited you." "No, but your absence did."
Silence stretches between them, but it is not empty. It pulses. It breathes. The forest holds its breath. He steps closer. She does not move. You wear many faces, he says, but none of them are lies. She feels her pulse in her neck, her wrists, between her legs. He reaches out, not to grab, but to offer. One finger brushes her collarbone, just there, where Brisingamen once lay. You miss it, he murmurs, but not because it made you powerful, because it made you feel held. She should strike him, should reveal herself, should tear the forest down with fire and fury, but she does not, because he is not wrong, and because there is a heat rising in her belly that has nothing to do with anger. I will take it back, she whispers. He smiles. You already are. He leads her deeper into the woods. No force, no chain, just silence and breath and the strange gravity between two beings who are meant to be rivals, but are somehow mirrors. The cave he brings her to is not dark. It glows dimly with moss and rune light. Inside, warmth radiates from the stone. She enters, and he waits. The necklace lies now on a low stone pedestal. Her fingers ache to reach for it, but she stops, because to take it would be to end this moment, and she is not yet ready. He watches her, not with lust, but with knowing. You do not want the necklace. You want what it gives you permission to feel. She turns to him. And what is that? He steps close again. Desire. Not theirs. Yours. Her breath catches. Because he is not speaking only of the necklace. He is speaking of her body, her mouth, her hunger. He sees it. He feels it. And she does too. She takes a step forward. She touches his chest, broad, solid, impossibly warm. Her fingers trail downward, uncertain, bold, trembling. Her sensuality has always been armor, but now she is using it as a key, not to control him, but to open herself. He lowers his head. His lips brush hers, but only briefly. The kiss does not land. It hovers, dares, waits. She closes the gap, and the world shifts. It is not a kiss of love. It is a kiss of recognition. A kiss of equal weight. A kiss that promises no safety, no salvation, only truth. And for a moment, she forgets the gods. She forgets Asgard. She forgets everything but the press of his hand on her hip and the way her name, her real name, forms in his throat like prayer. She pulls away. He does not chase her. She steps towards the necklace. Her fingers close around it. It burns. But she does not let go because she knows now. Desire has a price, and she is willing to pay it. Not in surrender,
but in becoming something greater than goddess. She slips Brisingamen back around her neck. The gold hums against her skin, and the storm, silent until now, begins to stir outside.
The storm outside groans like a beast waking in the dark, its first breath long and low, shaking the trees to their roots. Thunder murmurs beyond the cavern mouth, but inside, time has folded in on itself. Here, beneath the weight of stone and silence, Freyja stands not as a goddess, but as a woman made of want. The necklace hums around her throat, warm again, alive again. Brisingamen recognizes her. It clings to her skin as though it never left. But it is changed, and so is she. The gold presses into her like a question. What have you become to earn me back? The answer is still unfolding. The giant watches her, not as a victor, not as a captor, but as if witnessing the breaking of something sacred and secret. His breath is steady, his eyes unreadable, and yet within him she feels the quake of something vast. She does not yet know his name, but she knows his presence. It fills the space like musk and heat, like longing that has never been spoken aloud. She could leave now. She has what she came for. Her body hums with power reclaimed. Her magic sings in her blood. The wind outside has shifted. The cloak waits for her, but she does not move. Because the necklace was never the end. It was the beginning. Her pulse thrums in her throat. The cave's air is thick, moss-scented, damp with breath and storm. She steps forward, each movement deliberate, as if walking through the memory of a dream. She stops before him. The stone floor is cold beneath her feet. Her hair clings to her back, damp with heat, with the sweat of restraint. His hand rises, slow, reverent. He does not touch her, not yet. Instead, he waits. She reaches up and unclasps the cloak, letting it fall. It pools around her ankles like night-given form. Beneath, she wears nothing but her skin and the necklace is glowing now, softly, like firelight through amber. Her breath shivers, her spine straightens. She has stood before armies, naked in blood and victory, and yet never has she felt so exposed, not in flesh, but in truth. He looks at her as if she is not made of skin, but of stars, of flame, of wild things that do not yield, and yet she wants to yield, not in weakness, in choice. She steps to him until her chest brushes his. The heat of him is immense, radiating from his skin, from his breath, from the slow, restrained movement of his hands still held at his sides. "Touch me," she whispers, and the words fall from her lips like petals torn from a flower in a storm. His hand lifts, finds the small of her back. Another touches her jaw, fingers rough but hesitant, like he is afraid she might vanish if held too tightly.
I've never touched a goddess, he says, voice husky with awe. She presses closer. Then, don't touch the goddess. Her mouth finds his. It is not a kiss of conquest. It is not soft. It is not sweet. It is real. It is the crash of wave against stone, the groan of earth when winter thaws. It is centuries of unspoken yearning meeting in flesh. His arms enfold her, and her body yields. The weight of him is not crushing, it is grounding. She lets herself be carried to the stone floor, the moss beneath a cool balm against the heat building in her limbs. His mouth moves to her throat, and the necklace there sings against his lips. For the first time in memory, Freyja does not control the pace. She does not dictate the rhythm. She lets go. Each touch is a question, each gasp an answer. He moves within her like wind through trees, like the tide through sand, slow and relentless, like a truth too long denied. And she arches beneath him, not for pleasure alone, but for recognition. Here, in this hidden space between their skins, she is not worshipped. She is not feared. She is met.
His hands map her body like scripture, as though memorizing every curve, every tension, every tremble. And she gives, her body, yes, but more. She gives a memory, one she has never spoken aloud. In a voice raw and low, she tells him of the first time she loved. Not a king, not a god, a girl with eyes like dusk, whose name time stole. She remembers the warmth of that touch, the gentleness, and how the gods made her forget, made her bury it beneath centuries of pride and performance. The words fall from her like ash. And still he holds her. He does not speak. He simply listens. And in that silence, something shatters. Freyja weeps, not from sorrow, from release. Her body moves with his, her thighs wrapping around his hips, her arms locking behind his neck, her mouth gasping his name, not a title, not a symbol, just a sound. And when the moment takes her, it is not like lightning, it is like dawn, soft, irrevocable, holy. They lie together in the dark after, limbs tangled, breath shared. The cave is quiet, but not still. The air shimmers with power, her power, his, entwined now in ways neither fully understands. The necklace lies warm against her chest, and she, for the first time in ages, feels no need to rise. He speaks at last. "You are not what they say you are." She smiles against his shoulder. No one is. He turns to her. Will you leave now? She studies the curve of his mouth, the slope of his collarbone, the scars that map his ribs. Yes, she says, but not because I must. He nods, and she knows he understands. What she gave him was not obedience, not submission. It was her truth. And in return, he gave her something few gods ever receive: a place to rest. She rises, dresses, reclaims the falcon cloak, and fastens it beneath the necklace, which gleams brighter than it has since it was first forged. Before she goes, she bends to him one last time, kisses his brow, and whispers something in the old tongue, a blessing, or perhaps a goodbye. Then she is gone, and the storm breaks.
She flies through the night sky like an arrow dipped in shadow and longing. The falcon cloak holds close to her body, feathers rippling in the wind, heavy with more than just air. Brisingamen clings to her throat, its gold no longer gleaming with innocent allure, but darkened, burnished, soaked in memory. The charm has returned to its mistress, yes, but its magic now carries more than dwarven spells. It carries the scent of skin, the breath of surrender, the echo of a name murmured in the dark. The 9 realms look unchanged beneath her, but she is not the same. Freyja, goddess of love, of war, of death and desire, does not weep as she approaches Asgard, but neither does she smile. Her mouth is still, her brow serene, her gaze stretched far beyond the horizon. The storm has passed, but its traces linger. Streaks of thunder still claw the edges of the sky, and the earth below seems to pulse with an unfamiliar quiet. She does not land at the gates. She does not announce her return. She simply appears, stepping onto the polished stones of the Bifrost Bridge with bare feet and the silence that causes even Heimdall to lower his eyes. There is no procession, no celebration, but the gods feel it, the shift, the quiet, the change in her. Thor, pacing with the weight of unsaid things, sees her pass and says nothing. Odin, from the shadows of his hall, watches her with his one eye narrowed, not in judgment, but in calculation. And Loki, ever the whisperer, simply tilts his head and smiles, as if to say, "Ah, so it happened after all." But none dare approach her, not yet, because they see the storm in her bones, and something in them, something ancient and animal, tells them not to speak until she does.
In Sessrunir, her great hall of many seats, the walls are the same. The candles flicker in familiar rhythm. The air smells of herbs and fire and rose oil. Yet she stands in the center of it all like a stranger in her own skin. The necklace, once her crown and shield, lies now like a scar, visible, radiant, but changed. She touches it with 2 fingers, feels its heat, not from magic, from memory. And beneath it, the echo of his mouth, his hands,
His voice still lingers, a phantom, a brand. She walks to her chambers, closes the door, and allows herself to breathe. Only then does she unfasten the cloak and let it fall. The room is warm, but she feels cold, not in body, in soul. The kind of cold that follows a fire burn too long, the kind that settles in the bones after pleasure that bordered on pain. She stands before the mirror, not the polished bronze disc she once favored, but the true mirror, enchanted, cruel, and clear. It reflects not her face alone, but her aura, her history, her scars. And there it is, a new one, not visible to the eye, but carved in something deeper, a line of softness, a fold of grief, a gleam of something human. She leans forward and whispers her name. Not Freyja, the other one, the true one, the one she gave to him just once in the dark. The name no one else has heard in 1,000 years. She speaks it, and the mirror does not shatter. It smiles. She turns away. Later, when the gods gather in the hall to speak of omens and balance, she enters last. The room stills. Her presence commands as it always has, but it is different now, quieter, sharper, more dangerous in its restraint. They ask no questions, but their eyes flick to the necklace and then quickly away. Odin addresses her with his usual riddles. Loki offers a jest. Sif nods in silent respect. None dare ask where she went, how she found Brisingamen, or what price she paid. And she offers no story, because the story is hers. It lives not in words, but in her walk, in the curve of her mouth, in the silence she does not fill. Only once, when the chamber quiets and the fire burns low, does she speak. I have returned what was mine, she says, voice smooth and final. And in doing so, I have become more than I was. No one replies. They do not need to. The gods feel it, the shift in the wind, the pulse beneath the stone, the echo of something sacred and sorrowful threading the halls of Asgard. Later that night, alone beneath the canopy of stars, Freyja walks the edge of the world. The sky opens above her, brilliant and indifferent. Her hands brush the tall grass. The wind carries scents of fire, of pine, of snow that has not yet fallen. And then a whisper, a name, hers, spoken not by lips, but memory. She closes her eyes, feels his breath, though he is nowhere near. She does not cry, but her heart tightens, because in that cavern, beneath stone and storm, she gave more than her body. She gave a truth she had buried beneath centuries of perfection, and now it lives in her, a secret, a scar, a fire she cannot extinguish.
She walks back to her hall. The moon glints off Brisingamen, and in that soft glow the realms know the goddess has returned. But something inside her never left that cave, never stopped reaching, never stopped burning.
In the end, the myth is not about the necklace, not truly. It is not about a goddess retrieving what was stolen, nor about a tryst with a giant in the belly of the world. It is not about Asgard or vengeance, or even desire, not in its simplest sense. It is about what happens when a woman, long worshipped and long misunderstood, dares to see herself not through the lens of power or beauty, but through the aching stillness of her own becoming. Freyja had always been more than what they saw, more than the seductress on the battlefield, more than the weaver of charms, more than the shimmering figure who danced through mortal dreams like a fever. They saw the gold and the hips and the smile that sliced through silence, but they did not see the weight of Brisingamen on her collarbone. They did not see what it meant for her to wear it. They never asked what she gave to obtain it, or what it cost her to carry it. And now, neither does she. Because what once was cost has become choice. She is no longer chained to the image they carved for her, goddess of love, of war, of lust, of grief. She is all these things, but not in service to them, not to please, not to perform. She has made herself whole again, not by reclaiming what was taken, but by redefining what it means to possess it. Brisingamen no longer adorns her, it reflects her. And it is not just gold. It is fire softened by touch. It is hunger tempered by wisdom. It is the echo of her own name, whispered in the dark by someone who saw her, not the goddess, but the woman trembling beneath centuries of masks. There is strength in that tremble.
There is freedom in that surrender. And yet, there is a kind of binding too, because once you've tasted the truth of yourself, you can never return to the comfort of illusion. She walks through Asgard now with quieter steps. Her laughter is less frequent, but when it comes, it carries more weight. She does not flaunt Brisingamen anymore. She wears it close, tucked beneath her robes, against her bare skin. It warms with her heartbeat. It answers her only when she is still. And in that stillness, she listens to the new shape of her own power. It is no longer about conquest. It is about presence. Feminine strength in its purest form is not loud. It is not made of command or display. It is the ability to feel fully, even when it hurts. To open, even when the world does not deserve that softness. To want deeply, and to claim that wanting without shame. Freyja has learned this, not from the gods, not from her lineage, but from the curve of a shoulder beneath her palm, from the whisper of moss against her back, from the firelight flickering across stone, as she gave something of herself she had never spoken aloud. It was not love. It was not fate. It was truth. And truth is the rarest kind of power. Now, when the Aesir speak her name, they speak it differently. Less like a spell, more like a question, because they feel it too, that she has changed.
And though they may never know why, though they may never see the scar, they bow a little deeper now. Not out of fear, but out of reverence. Because the most powerful kind of God is not the one who conquers. It is the one who dares to transform. Even when it means unraveling, even when it means burning, even when it means surrendering for a moment to something she cannot name. And so the myth endures, not carved in stone or sung in mead halls, but whispered in twilight by those who sense there is more to beauty than charm, more to desire than flesh, more to divinity than gold. They say she returned to her hall in silence, that she stood alone beneath the stars, fingers brushing, breezing amen, lips parting to speak a name no one could hear, that her hair smelled of storm and moss, that her skin glowed faintly like embers after flame, and that when she closed her eyes, the 9 realms held their breath, not in fear, but in awe of what she had become, of what she had always been, and of the secret she carried now, quietly, forever, that there is no power greater than a woman who has walked into the dark, touched her own ache, and returned not needing to be worshipped, only known. She is no longer waiting to be chosen, no longer aching for permission.
She has stepped beyond the roles assigned: goddess, prize, seductress, mystery, and become something uncontainable, not softer but truer, not lesser but quieter, still but not stillness itself, more like the hush before thunder, the pool of tide before it rises. She will still love. She will still war. She will still desire. But now it will be hers. Not because the necklace glows on her breast, but because she glows from within. She has stared into the hunger of the world, and instead of retreating, she fed it with her truth. She has tasted surrender, not as weakness, but as a kind of freedom. To give, not because she was taken from, but because she chose. To open, not because she was conquered, but because she welcomed. This is what the myth whispers. This is what the necklace means now. Not seduction,
not power, not even revenge, but intimacy with herself, with her longing, with her sovereignty. In the glow of candlelight, in the hush before dawn, the story lingers like perfume on skin. It asks nothing, it only offers a question, a mirror, a breath.
And if you listen closely enough, if you sit long enough in that still, velvet dark, you might hear it too. Not a song, not a sermon, just a murmur like silk across stone. You are allowed to want. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to be more than what they made you. And in that moment, perhaps, you too will feel the veil fall away, not to hide, but to reveal, not to seduce, but to be seen. Freyja's myth is not over. It never was. Because the deepest myths don't end. They awaken. They echo. And in every woman who dares to reclaim her name, her body, her longing, and her truth, Freyja lives again.